May just need time to build that back up. The Angels are thinking about going with a six-man rotation, which may get him more at bats. But I think where he's going right now as a hitter, he is so valuable. 5 out of the 6 projections I saw, like you mentioned, 20 homers, 15 stolen bases. You know who does that also? Byron Buxton. And he's going, what, 8 rounds earlier? I mean, it's all a matter of playing time for Otani. Just like you mentioned, where's Pujols, Jared Walsh going to play? Where he's not really going to, Otani's not going to play the outfield. He's going to DH. So there's really, he either DHs or he pitches. He's probably going to DH, what, 3 times a day? 3 times a week, I'm sorry, and pitch once a week. You know what? Those 3 times a week that he pitches, he is so valuable to you that you know what? He's worth drafting, and he can give you basically the same stats as Byron Buxton, and he probably won't get as injured as much because his injury was a pitching injury. It wasn't an injury running into a wall. It wasn't an injury, a broken finger or something like that. I think overall you can get more value as a hitter from Shohei Ohtani than Byron Buxton.
Yeah, and that extra, if they do go to a six-man rotation, at least for part of the year, that will help his value quite a bit. He'll get an extra set of at-bats every week. Any thoughts on Ohtani? He's so cheap, isn't he?
I mean, he's the cheapest he's ever been. And when you kind of play the long game in the careers of some of these guys, I mean, that's when you want to buy in, is when these guys are at the cheapest that they've ever been, and get out conversely when the price is highest than it's ever been. In Ohtani's case, yeah, HQ were projecting 16 homers, 11 steals, 273 batting average, and essentially part-time duty. And yeah, I mean, that has a ton of value. The thing is, the Angels are committed to, either they made a pledge to Ohtani that he's going to see this through and try and do the pitching thing. Fully agree, by the way, if you are drafting Ohtani, you are using the hitter version. But I get why the Angels are doing it from a real baseball and team construct standpoint. They need pitching a hell of a lot more than they need hitting. So I can see why they're trying to see this through with Ohtani. It'd be interesting because if, say, for example, I mean, you don't want him to get hurt again, but let's say they scrap the pitching experiment in April. They just say it's not going to work out. And instead, Ohtani, you're going to DH, 6 games a week. From a fantasy standpoint, you just got, kind of revenge what you were saying, like a Byron Buxton, even better than a Byron Buxton in the 17th round. So that's kind of what you're hedging on, is the Angels giving up on Ohtani pitching experiment, because if that happens, the price is ripe for profit given the per game production. Just so frustrating to own, having a guy who at least currently is only going to play 3 times a week. That's really tough when you're sitting there Sunday night, Monday morning, trying to make your lineup decisions, and you see Ohtani obviously not pitching Sunday, or not hitting Sunday, not hitting the day before, day after, that sort of thing. It's tough to put somebody, even of his skill, who's only playing 3 times a week when you're sitting there Monday morning and trying to make those weekly lineup calls. So that's kind of the worst case with Ohtani. But yeah, I mean, the skill is there. If he gives up pitching, and focuses on hitting, that's going to be a major boon where he's going in drafts for sure.
Yeah, and to the listener, the most important thing is to know the rules of your league. He might be eligible only at pitcher in your league, in which case, forget it. He might be eligible only at hitter. There might be 2 versions of Ohtani, the hitter Ohtani and pitcher Ohtani. There might be one that you can use for each. And, of course, we talk a lot on this show about redraft weekly lineups, but this is a case that if you're in a daily lineup, he's worth a lot more. He's going to be undervalued for a lot of reasons. And, of course, his ADP in that kind of league would be a lot higher as well, because people realize that too. We have time for one mailbag question. Jacob Siegel asks, as someone playing Roto for the first time, with all my league mates having never played either before, what strategy would you suggest taking about catchers? Also, quick thoughts on Will Smith and Sean Murphy. Want to take a stab at that, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I think we hit from the strategy side. I think we hit that pretty good in the first half. I mean, one thing that I'll just kind of wrap that part up with is, look at the catcher pool, and since the question was it's their first year in Roto specifically, the learning curve with Roto is learning to balance those categories. So we've covered different guys like a Darno or a Wilson Contreras who give you that batting average, as opposed to a Grandal who's not giving you that batting average. Determine even in draft which type of catcher fits your build the best so that you're the most balanced is what I would say from a strategy standpoint. And then kind of, listen to what we said at the top in terms of streaming, if it's 1 or 2 catcher leagues. Definitely thought we covered that really well. So, in terms of Sean Murphy, not enough experience for me yet to really dive in. I think the market's really giving Murphy a 164 ADP for someone with 170 career at bats. I go back to that research that we've done with the learning curve for catchers at the major league level. It is a tough transition, and for me, there's not enough of a track record there. Even though the projections look pretty good for Sean Murphy, I think there's some definite performance risk in those projections. And I think there's a pretty low floor there for someone who is not and hasn't really gone through that adjustment period against major league pitching. So I'm kind of out on Sean Murphy at the price, the park, and that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, I think Murphy is somebody that is way too expensive in a 2-catcher league for where he's going. In a 1-catcher league, though, I think that's the kind of guy you want to take a stab on for your last pick, or maybe go to the second to last round and take a stab on Murphy, and you'll be happy you did. Will Smith was the other catcher. I think he's expensive. I think he's very good. But I think he's expensive. I also think that because of no NLDH, his value takes a hit. I mean, the Dodgers were using him down the stretch as an NLDH, which is propping up his value in projections and his value going forward as perception. So I think the Dodgers, I think they think that they're going to win the World Series this year anyways. So they're going to, I'm not going to say do screwy things, but they're going to just say, catch half. They don't need him to catch extra. They'd rather just have him fresh for the playoffs. I think that he's just too expensive and he's overvalued for his price. Great player. I mean, on a per at bat basis, one of the best. But I think for the counting stats you're going to get, just a little bit too expensive. Ruben?
If the Dodgers say that Will Smith will catch every day and be their everyday starting catcher, then he could be a number 1 catcher at the price he's going at right now. So you know what? I'd be willing to get those. Even in 90 games, he'll hit 20 home runs. He'll give you 20-plus home runs, 60-plus RBIs in those 90 games. But you know what? If he played 120 games, 130 games, you're talking about JT Realmuto territory. So he's a guy, if you have a hunch and you think he's going to play every day, then go ahead. As for Sean Murphy, again, just like Ryan said, the sample size is way too small. I'm not ready to commit on him yet. If it was a 1-catcher league and it was a 15-team league, would I spend $1 on him? Yes. Why not? Because there are a lot worse catchers out there. But he's not on my radar as my number 1 catcher.
Yeah, good points. Ruvain, injury and update time. Go for it.
All right, well, since we're talking about catchers, I'll mention a bunch of catchers. We have Kurt Casale, who actually revealed this past weekend that he underwent hamate surgery in December. He's experiencing no pain, and so far he should be good. Tom Murphy, also, he missed all of last year with a broken bone in his foot. He's fully recovered, but his workload will be closely monitored. So Tom Murphy is a guy that a lot of people are drafting also. You have to be careful with him. And I already mentioned about JT Realmuto, about wearing a cast. He's actually doing some activities with the cast on. He's been able to catch, been able to hit with the cast. So you know what? I don't think Realmuto will miss any time.
Well, this has been a fantastic episode. I want to thank Ryan for coming on the show. Why don't you tell everybody where we can read your stuff, where we can follow you, and all good things Ryan Bloomfield.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much, guys, for having me on. Again, real big fan. I've pumped the podcast a few times on my social feed and really believe in what you guys are doing. So really appreciate you having me on. You can find me at Twitter at RyanBHQ. And again, search for Bloom Boards on Twitter and you'll see a bunch of my stuff come up there. And I'll be posting those throughout the rest of draft season and into 2021 once we get to the regular season. You can find my written work at BaseballHQ, and we are also we've got First Pitch Florida online, unfortunately, this year. Hope to get back there in person next March for First Pitch Florida, but we're doing the online version in Zoom, so check that out if you're able and willing at baseballhq.com. I'm really looking forward to that the weekend of March 5th through the 7th. So again, thanks again, guys.
Oh, sure. Ruvain, why don't you plug your stuff?
You can follow me on Twitter at MLB Injury Guru, where I tweet out weekly, daily injury updates for teams and next guy up as well. And during the season, I also have a weekly injury article for Rotobowler.
Well, my name is Ariel Cohen. You can find my work over at Fangraphs, at CBS Sportsline, at Rotobowler, and you can see my projections on all of those sites. We had a projections update over the weekend, so they're nice and fresh. So take a look at them. And, of course, you can listen to me right here on the Beat the Shift podcast. Follow me on Twitter at ATCNY. Once again, thank you so much to Ryan Bloomfield for being on the show today, and from all of us here at Beat the Shift, have a great one.
Thanks for listening to the Beat the Shift podcast presented by Fangraphs. Follow us on Twitter at beat_shift_pod.